It is another wonderful day to be alive. It is a day where you and I have the opportunity to start our day with a focus on the truth of what God has done for us in Jesus Christ. And that is the purpose of these morning mindset editions of the Live, Build, Change podcast. These are a 5-minute shot in the soul to help you get your mind right and to help you focus on the truth of what God says about you rather than what you often might feel about yourself. In these past few days, we've started an investigation into Romans chapter 6, and my goal in these next podcast episodes of the Morning Mindset is to go through Romans 6, 7, and 8, because I believe those 3 chapters are among the most pivotal chapters that we need to understand in order to truly live out our faith in Jesus Christ. We're picking up today in verse number 5 of chapter 6. And Paul has just established that when we died, or let me say it again, Paul has just established that when Jesus died, we died with him. We were united in death with him, and we were united with him in resurrection. Verse 5 says, "For if we have been united with him in a death like his, we shall certainly be united with him in a resurrection like his. We know," listen to Paul's confidence, "we know that our old self was crucified with him in order that the body of sin might be brought to nothing, so that we would no longer be enslaved to sin. For one who has died has been set free from sin. Now, if we have died with Christ, we believe that we will also live with him. We know that Christ, being raised from the dead, will never die again. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death he died to sin, once for all. But the life he lives to God. So you also must consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to God in Christ Jesus." That was a longer passage than I expected I was going to read, but it's all tied so closely together. We've just got to take it all in one bite. And it's all based on that fact that when Jesus died, we died with him. And he says that fact that we died with him means that we have been set free from sin. Sin no longer has mastery over a dead person, right? And he's saying you died. Now, he's not talking about physically you died. He's saying spiritually, your old self, that old sinful self, was crucified with him. Your guilt, your punishment, your responsibility for who you are and the sin you've committed went to the cross with Jesus. And he's saying it was done so you should no longer be enslaved to sin. You've been set free from sin. And he says right there at the end in verse number 11, something that is perfectly oriented toward the purpose of these morning mindset episodes of the Live, Build, Change podcast. He says, "So you also must consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to God in Christ Jesus." Now, what does that mean? Consider yourself dead to sin. It means you've got to reckon in your own mind that it's true. You've got to tell yourself it's true. You've got to consider it to be so. Not like a wishful thinking thing, but as in accepting something that is true. You know, sometimes we get bad news about someone being sick or someone being ill, and we say the phrase, "I can't believe it." And it's because our mind is having trouble grasping the reality of what we've been told. I believe this is one of those kinds of concepts, though it's not in such a negative context. In fact, it's in a very positive context. We are dead to sin and alive to God, and we must consider it to be so. Not in a way that we're pulling the wool over our eyes and convincing ourselves of something that isn't true, but in a way in which we are accepting that God says this is true right here in Romans chapter 6. So today, as you face raising your children, your employer, your job, the things you've got to do today, will you consider yourself dead to sin and alive to God? Will you do that? I want to hear about it. So let me know. Carey at livebuildchange.com.